Hello, I'm Sayakat Cosplay and welcome to another video. I thought today I'd take a little bit of time to do a little retrospective on things that I have made for myself throughout the years. I actually didn't know how many costumes I had made for myself until I just went through and counted, and it is the answer to the universe, 42. Auspicious. I've been making costumes for a really long time. If you would like to check out my personal costuming story, I have another video on how I got started in cosplay. I will link that in the description down below. Also, card? But that didn't actually cover, all of the costumes that I have ever made for myself. So I thought today I would take you through the history of my costumes. Since I've been making costumes for a really long time, I'm going to start from the year of when I started making costumes that ended up going to a convention. I didn't really start going to conventions until 2015, but there are costumes that I had made before that did end up going to conventions, and I ended up competing in one of them. And so I'll start from 2011. So since 2011, I have made myself 42 costumes. That's quite a bit, and that's not including some of the things that I've made for other people. I've made quite a number of things and I don't actually know that number. Oi. So I'm not including commissions or props or things that I've made for other people that aren't things that I have worn and gone to a con or done a photo shoot in. Starting in 2011, I made myself my original Kerrigan cosplay. It evolved over the years and got new parts and new pieces, and eventually was retired in 2016, but not before going to quite a number of conventions, and I think I wore it something like 6 different times, which is quite a number of times for such a large costume. In 2012, I made my Commander Shepard cosplay, and I was really super proud of it at the time. It was my first ever full foam build, full foam armor. I eventually sold it, and then I was really not happy with it later on, and last year I got to do sort of a redemption arc and made a full FemShep commission, which I don't count as a personal costume, but that was fun to do, to see how I had evolved over the past 7 years. In 2013, I made my Weeping Angel cosplay. This is probably one of my most favorite things I've ever made, just because of the scare factor and the fact that I wore it on Halloween and scared the ever-living crud out of so many people. That was fun. 2014 was the year that I graduated from grad school, and everything kind of went downhill from there. That was the year I made Tyrael and kind of got the competition bug, because that was the first time I ever competed and won. And after that was like, oh, I can do more of this, cool. So those 4 years I made one costume a year for Halloween originally, but then it evolved and it got worse, much worse. So 2015, that was the first year that I made more than one costume per year. I ended up making Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, and I made the Monarch for my husband. That was a couple's cosplay. I've made him 2 costumes over the years. That was one of them. The other one I ended up wearing, so I count that as one that I made for myself as well. I'll get to that in a minute. And after Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, I made myself my first full Warbler build, which was my Zelda armor, which I only just retired last year. So that costume is actually still in really good shape, and it's 5 years old, and it still looks great, but it's now retired. And then I made my Me costume, which I've sold, and also my Maya costume, which I would like to make another version of at some point, but yeah. So at that point, at the end of 2015, I had made myself 8 cosplays. 2016 is when things really ramped up really hardcore, really fast. I ended up going from 8 cosplays at the end of 2016 to having made myself 20 cosplays. That was a very prolific year. I think my most prolific. I started off by making myself Diablo. Don't ever make me make Diablo again. That was ridiculous. I don't know what I was doing. Ooh, that was a hard project. Anyway, Diablo I was really proud of, and I still have his head, but the rest of him is gone. He has been trashed. He's too big. Anyway, I also made myself Sailor Pluto, and those two were for Katsucon 2016, and then I had made myself a sort of casual Talizora. I made myself an Omniblade, so I do count that as a cosplay, even though it's more of a casual cosplay. I don't really do casual cosplays that much, but that was one of the ones I count as an actual cosplay. And then I made my Blood Elf. That actually started off as a prop build, as a decompression from building Diablo, and then I built a cosplay around the prop, so yeah. And then my Blood Elf is one of the few costumes that has been continually upgraded and improved, and it's not retired. It's still a cosplay that I plan on wearing more and improving more and adding to, so it's one of those ones that just is an original design, so I just keep adding to it and keep wearing it. I don't know how many times I've worn it. A lot. Anyway, after that, I made a couple of swimsuit cosplays for Colossal Con, and I made Commander Data and swimsuit Maya. So that's my second version of Maya. I do count that as a separate cosplay because I made a second costume for it, swimsuit. After that, I made my Tyrande cosplay, and Tyrande is one of the cosplays, along with Diablo, that I get associated with a lot. I'm pretty well known for it. If you haven't seen it, it's somewhere on my social media. But anyway, that was one of the big builds. Yeah, I made a lot of big builds that year. And then I was off to the races and going to Dragon Con, so I made a Cloud Jumper Gajinka to go with a friend's costume. I made Zap Brannigan because it's Dragon Con. And I also made a costume which has never seen the light of day except for one outing related night at Dragon Con, which is a mashup of Avengers and Austin Powers. I made a Black Widow Fembot. I have like 2 selfies in that costume, and then the rest of the time is a little bit of a blur, so yeah, I made that cosplay and then it just never got worn again after that one time. And last but not least, I ended up remaking my Dr. Mrs. the Monarch cosplay. I wanted to rewear it, but after the first time I wore it, I needed to massively change a lot of things. The first time I wore it, it didn't work super great, and I do count it as making another cosplay because I remade the vast majority of that cosplay, so I do count that as having made it a second time. I think I remade like 80% of it, so I count that as another costume. Okay, 2017. I made myself Impa, which was an Art Nouveau version of Impa, which was designed by Drifting by Stars. I made a Deer Gajinka, which actually was just a pair of antlers in my wedding dress, but I count that anyway. I made my husband's Pyromancer, which I count as something that I made for myself as well because I wore it a couple of years later. And it's a giant sword in a fabric cosplay, and I couldn't not have that costume be only worn once because my husband only wore it once. I had to wear it again, so I wore it. And then I made a swimsuit version of Cora Harper from Mass Effect Andromeda. And that year, the rest of the year was taken up by making my second version of Kerrigan, which is the Heroes of the Storm skin Kerrigan version, which was a collaborative effort between myself and my friend Michelle. We made 2 of these things, and so it's kind of like making 2 cosplays, but I only made one that I wore, even though there are 2 that exist. We kind of shared the workload, and I made certain things and she made certain things, so I made one of them. Anyway, at the end of 2017, at that point, I had 25 cosplays to my name. And then in 2018, I made Alucard. I kind of had started Alucard in 2017, but because I finished him and wore him in 2018, I count him as a 2018 cosplay. Made my Sister of Battle, which I'm also pretty well known for, I guess. That was a fun one because I made that in 28 days. That was a power build. I also that year made Phaedra for Colossal Con, a dark elf just for a photo shoot because that was 4 hours of gray body paint and there was no way I was going to do that at con because I've done body paint at con and it's a lot of work. And that year I also made Asuka, the rebuild version of Asuka, the Evangelion rebuild. I think it's her 3.0 suit. Eva nerds, don't come for me. And then I made my monk cosplay for BlizzCon 2018, and my monk is one of my favorite things ever. It's super comfortable, it's armor, it's fabric, it's great. I love that costume. I worn it a lot, and it's held up pretty well over the last 2 years. 2019, I didn't really make a ton of stuff for myself. At that point, I was in full-time commissioner mode, and I made some stuff for myself, but I was mostly working on commissions and Magda. So before I made Magda, that year I made myself Howl, and I also made my mom a Sophie costume. That was not a personal costume, but it was cute. I made Farah in a week. Don't ever make a full armor in a week. You will want to... Don't make a full armor in a week. It's not a good idea. You're gonna burn yourself out really bad. I made a Shy Gal for April Fools, so it's a really simple, casual thing. And then I made nothing else that year for myself except for Magda. And that's because she was a friggin' beast. She's very expensive. If you'd like to learn more about Magda, I have a video breakdown on her and competitions. Link to that down below, and card. But yeah, 2019, I mostly spent most of the time working on Magda. She was a 2.5 month long haul to get that done. So she is the most hours of any costume I've ever made, ever. She took the longest, she's the most expensive, she looks gorgeous, is incredibly hard to wear, and is sort of semi-retired. I wore her 3 times. Fast forward to this year, where we're getting down to the end of the year, and there have been like no conventions, and I thought that this year I really wouldn't be making a lot of stuff for myself, but in the last like 3 months, all of a sudden I've made things. So at the beginning of the year, I made myself a Merry Man from Robin Hood Men in Tights to wear at MagFest, and that was a lot of fun because it's really stupid, and yeah, it was great. And then I made myself my Lelouch cosplay, which I really, really love, and I've only worn at Katsucon, and I wish I could have worn it more, although now that it's cold out, I could probably wear it to an outdoor photo shoot. It's really, really warm. It's all silk. It's a silk suit. Oh my god, that's so warm. But anyway, the next cosplay that I started and then took 6 months to finish was my Unit 2 costume, which I still don't have full photos of because there's no conventions, and yeah, anyway, I don't have any photos of that yet. I'm working on it. But I also made myself a cosplay in a day, which was a personal challenge to myself. So I made an Airbender original character. Don't have photos of that yet, just some selfies from like late at night when I'd finished the thing and was in like a fever dream of I finished a cosplay in a day. And then I made 2 versions of Evelyn, because I can. And then I made Carmilla in like 3 days. So with that brings my grand total to 42. And that's all of my personal cosplays. Sometimes I think and wonder if that's a lot or not a lot. Everybody's definition of what's a lot, I guess, is going to be different. I didn't realize I had made myself that many cosplays over the years. It seems like a lot to me, considering that some of those are really big armors and take literally 2-3 months to build, number of hours it takes to build these things. And amongst all the commissions that I've made over the years and things that I've made for other people and props that I've built, and I've made a lot of stuff. So that's my personal cosplay history. I hope that this was fun and interesting, and if you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments about things, leave them down below, and I'll see you folks later. Bye.